There is no video that I've ever put online that A, gets stolen more than this one, and B, gets more questions than this one. I posted this video of me doing a wreath on a window for a local business about 5 years ago, and to this date, it is still the absolute most popular thing I have ever put on the internet. Every single year it goes viral. And I love that, but despite me saying in the video exactly what I was using and talking step by step through it, there are still so many questions on it every single year. So I thought once and for all, I would make a video that I can point people right directly to get the step by step, the exact tools I use, and all the different questions that need to be answered on that video. Let's just do it. Okay, the first thing I want to say about tools, first and foremost, is that if you are really serious about using the right tools and getting all the best information on this kind of thing, Mabs, who I actually co-wrote a full signage course with, and I'll link to that below, but Mabs and I did an entire downloadable PDF checklist and a video that goes with it that shows everything that we both have in our kits for doing big signage projects like this. For now though, for this exact project we're doing today, I'm going to be using, first and foremost, number one, a paint pen, and I'm going to be using a Sharpie water-based paint pen. I'm going to use this really, really large tip. I really like water-based paint pens for projects like this because they come off pretty easily, but not so easily that they're going to smudge when you touch them. So water-based is a really good option. Water-based has that blue band, but it depends also where you are in the world. It might look a little bit different, but just look for water-based paint pen. Another really good water-based option is the Posca paint pens. I really like these ones too. I just happen to have brand new Sharpie, so I'm going to use those. If you want something that's even more durable because you want it to last a really long time, or you're worried that somebody might walk up and kind of scratch at it, then maybe go for an oil-based paint pen. That's the one with the red stripe. Oil-based will also come off really easily and it won't damage your windows, but you have to use alcohol or acetone to get it off. Whereas with water-based, you can use water or Windex to get it off. So this is like the medium durability because you can touch it and it won't smudge off, but if you scratch at it, it will. Versus oil-based, you can touch it, you can scratch it, it's not going to come off until you use alcohol or acetone. And if you want it to be even less durable than all of those, which I don't recommend, you could use chalk markers and they'll come right off even if you just touch them, which is not ideal because then as you're working, your hand might smudge it. It's not ideal. So I wouldn't use chalk marker unless that's all you have, in which case you can totally do this, but just know that if you touch it, it'll come off. So water-based is my preference. Again, all of these markers and a whole bunch more are all in our checklist. So I'm going to put that in the comments down below. So make sure you go grab that if you're looking for links and names and all the things on this stuff. The second thing is this Stabilo All pencil. You might see this word aquarellable or Stabilo All, depends where you are in the world. If you can't find this one, you can usually find like glass pencils, and they're sometimes not also white, maybe they're red or blue or whatever you can find, but a glass pencil, Stabilo All is my preference. This is a really good option for doing like your sketching on the window and doing your outlines before you go on with your paint pen. You could also do that with a chalk marker. Again, it's a little messier and a little easier to rub off, so I prefer using a glass pencil. So this is Stabilo All. You're going to need string of some kind for this project. String, or I've used a phone charger before. Right now I just happen to have ribbon on my desk, so I'm going to use ribbon, but something that you can use as kind of a compass. You'll see how I do that in a minute, but something flexible, string, ribbon, phone charger, whatever you have. And then you're also going to need some Q-tips. I don't have them on my desk right now, but you'll need some Q-tips. And lastly, paper towel and Windex. Okay, that's it for tools. So let me bring you over to the window and we're just going to get started. Okay, so this is the window that I'm going to be putting the wreath on. This is at the front door of my office. So it's going to be a nice big wreath here, and people will see it from the hallway as well. And so I'm going to be working on the inside of this window so that it's nice and clean in here, and on the outside it'll look perfect and less streaky, and it will be less likely that anybody will touch it because I'm going to be doing it on the inside. Okay, the very first thing I'm going to do is clean this window just in case there's any fingerprints or residue or anything that I don't want to have to clean around my wreath. Okay, the window is clean, so now is when this ribbon or string or whatever you have comes in handy. And we're gonna basically try and find kind of the middle of where we want the wreath to be. So I'm just eyeballing it. It does not have to be perfect because your wreath is going to be able to fill out any imperfections, but I'm going to wrap my string around this pencil and I'm going to put my finger where I want the middle of the wreath to be. So I think for me, it's approximately here. And I'm going to use that as my pivot point to draw my circle. And it's not going to be perfect because things move and the angle of my finger moves a little bit, but it gives you a very general outline for where you want your circle to be. Now, this is really big. Like I barely have any room on either side. And personally, I think that's going to look really pretty on this window specifically because I want it to be really full and beautiful. But you could make it a little bit smaller because you need to think about you're going to have room for your actual branches. So I love that. I'm not sure if you can see on video that this even made a mark. It's pretty light, but that's what's really great about this Stabilo all pencil. Okay, so now I'm ready to go in with my paint marker. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm shaking it really, really well before we get started. Paint markers are notoriously annoying for getting streaky. So you wanna make sure it's really well shaken up. And then I've got this glass surface here. You could use glass or plastic and you're gonna dab it down until you can get it to start running. Sometimes you have to hold it for a minute and you can see that the paint starts coming out. Now I like to kind of have a puddle on this glass because the more saturated you can get that paint marker to be, the better, without dripping obviously, but there we go. So my paint marker is ready to use. Okay, so now comes the good part. I've got my paint marker ready and this paint marker is a chisel tip. So I'm gonna be using the widest side and I'm just gonna go trace over that circle. Making sure that it's a nice opaque line. And if you need to stop halfway to kind of like pump it again or get it running again. And it doesn't matter if you've got these little imperfections because we're gonna cover them over with our needles. It's not a huge deal. It does not have to be absolutely perfect. And even if you don't perfectly trace your circle and you've got some spots that like go a little off of your original guideline, it's no big deal. So now once the circle is in, I'm gonna pump my pen one more time and then I'm gonna start adding in some branches. Okay, so we're gonna do some branches to the inside and some to the outside. And if you drip, just know that it's water-based and it'll come off and you can go and clean them up after. Again, you want to make sure those lines are nice and like opaque. So getting your paint marker to be as juicy and runny as possible is ideal. And in an ideal world, you're also not going to go back and touch those up after because paint marker, once it dries, can be really annoying to touch up. So trying to get it all kind of like on the first shot, nice and opaque like that, is a lot better than trying to go back and add more. So again, some to the middle, some to the outside, and just trying to get like enough coverage everywhere. And then once I've drawn those in, I kind of step back and see if it feels even, if anywhere feels like it needs to be filled out. And for now, I think it looks pretty good, but we'll see once I've put in the needles. So here's how it looks before adding any of the detail. We've just got like a basic outline. Okay, next I want to show you a small little detail that I like to add on this. It's minor detail, but I think it ends up looking really cute in the end. Hi, you can see me in the reflection. But basically I'm going to use the thinner side of this marker and hopefully this will focus here. And I'm going to add a little circle at the end of all of these branches. And you might notice now that my hand can touch the rest of this paint and I'm not worried about smudging it. And I'm also not super worried about handprints. Because normally like this part of a hand doesn't make a super strong handprint unless you like really push it onto the window. But B, because we can tidy them up afterwards if we need to. This is not so precious that you can't touch it at all. which is why I say not to use chalk markers, because chalk markers are that precious. Okay, so we have our little circles in all of them, and now I'm gonna add the needles, which is the most important and fun part. So I'm gonna use, again, the thinner side of this marker, and I'm honestly just going in and adding these lines to make it look like pine needles. And you can make some of them really straight, you can make some of them a little bit curved, they can overlap. It just kind of free form, have fun with it. The only thing I try to do is keep them all nice and opaque and keep them all kind of similar in width. But it's nature, so the more varied they are, the better. And I add little ones. I forgot to do it on this first one, but I add little ones at the end as well. So we're just going to go through and do that on the entire wreath. Honestly, I find the less perfect you make these, the better. And yes, when you get to spots like this, you can overlap them with the stem of the wreath, the center part. So we're just making these all really nice and big and bold. Mabs and I have done this design countless times on businesses, and it just always looks so beautiful. You can't see, but off camera, I'm kind of going over to my glass and dabbing my pen every once in a while to make sure it stays really nice and juicy and runny. Depending on the angle, sometimes it gets a little trickier to hold your arm and still get the effect that you want. So sometimes you might need to go a little slower just to kind of make sure your needles are going on the right angle, but kind of no matter what, it ends up looking really pretty. So I wouldn't overthink it too much. All right, so there are all the branches filled in. And as I look at this now, I try to see if there are any kind of blank spots that I want to see. So first of all, I think this looks pretty, and we're going to add some more detail to it, but I want to like just even out the design, and I'm finding that it looks a little like something's missing. So for this design, something I did not do in the video that went viral is add any other types of greenery. And I think that maybe we should for this one, just add a little special something. So I'm gonna take my Stabilo All pencil again and just add in some lines of where I think I might want those little extra details. And it's gonna be like a fluffy thing. I don't know what they're called. I'm a professional, but I'm not a florist. So I'm gonna add a few of this type of thing here and there. Just kind of mapping them in at first in any of the spots that feel a little bare. And you do kind of want to make sure that they're in the whole design and they don't just look like they're in one or two spots. So I'm gonna add maybe one more over here. And it's okay also if they overlap with the original design, because you'll see what I'm planning here. So I've got some mapped out little extra pieces, and now I'm gonna go ahead and fill them in. So I'll show you how I add those. Okay, so for the design of this element, I'm gonna use the narrow side of my marker again. I'm gonna add my little stem, and then I'm just doing dots. They're just gonna look like little fluffy guys. It could be a pine cone, it could be some kind of like pussy willow or something. But they look really cute and holiday-y. So if we back up, you can see what it's gonna look like in the wreath. So I'm gonna add a whole bunch of those. And it's okay also, like I said, if they overlap with some of the original pine needles, because they would do that in real life. So don't overthink it too much. I would try and make them all approximately the same size. So I'm gonna put in the original ones that I mapped out, and then I'll see if I feel like I need more anywhere. Okay, I love the way this is looking. And there's one more thing I'm going to do with the marker before I add our finishing details. And that is, I'm gonna add some little notches on this main branch to just make it look like it's a stick. And this feels like such a tiny little detail, but I promise you it's gonna make it look more finished and polished. So just these little, like almost these little triangles along the stem. Some can be bigger, some can be smaller. Just kind of adding like a little tiny bit of detail here and there. Okay, so there's what we're working with. And before we can do the very last step, we need to let it completely dry. Okay, this is dry, so it's time now for my favorite part, which is adding the finishing touches, and this is where the Q-tip comes in. So I have a Q-tip, and basically all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go around the entire stem of this circle and the stem of all of these branches and carve out a line. And I know that might sound weird, but it's gonna make a huge difference. And this is why using water-based markers is really helpful, because they carve off really easily. And you can add all these really cool details to them once they're dry. So I'm just adding a single line in the stem all the way around. So I'm pushing with a significant amount of pressure on this Q-tip, and it's just peeling off the paint in that spot. Okay, so I've done it around the whole circle. Now I'm gonna do it on each of these branches from that little circle we started at the top. So that's like our starting point. And then we carve all the way down and connect it to that middle. Okay, so I'm gonna do that on all of these big ones. Right away, you can see how this one has so much more detail than that one, and it just looks more finished. So I'm gonna go around and do that on the whole thing. And my very last step before we do the grand reveal from the outside is to just go back on any of those spots that I had my little guidelines and really gently with a paper towel, just get rid of them. The paint will not come off if you're pressing lightly with your paper towel. So don't worry too much about that, but like any spots that have these little guidelines left over, just really gently buffing them off with a dry paper towel. And sometimes it really doesn't make too much of a difference. Like the average person is probably not going to look that closely. And then again, if you notice any fingerprints or any other little mistakes, now would be the time to go through and touch them up. But there's the look from the inside, and now I'll show you what it looks like from the outside. Look how nice it looks. What a nice welcoming wreath when you walk up to this office. It's called Aya Beauty Studio. That's who I share it with. And I love how the wreath kind of just like perfectly frames her name. But there we have it. So if you look nice and closely, you can see all those little details and how they really make it pop. Oh my God, I missed one of them. How horrible. How glad that I realized. I was taking some final pictures of it and realized I missed one. You can't be doing that. There we go. Okay, did I miss any other ones? Let's make sure. No, we're good. Okay, there's your final. And there you have it, your super cute wreath. Super simple. There are not too many steps to it, not too many tools for it. Anybody can totally do this. Again, if you are really into doing this kind of project, if you want to see what it would look like to do it on bigger windows, like for storefronts or menu boards, chalkboards, wood signs, mirror signs, all sorts of different surfaces and different applications of big signage projects like this. Again, Chalked by Mabs and I wrote a course about signage, and it covers everything that both of us know collectively about doing signage projects. So if you're interested in that, I'm going to put the link down below. And again, the checklist for all the supplies for this is going to be down below as well. I hope you find it helpful. I'm going to link you to another video that I think you might like next, and I'll see you over there.